This, like any story worth telling, is all about a girl. That girl, the girl next door.
There's no one as simultaneously comforting and alluring as the girl next door. Through the decades, this figure encapsulates her time period's particular idea of the perfect woman, not just in her looks, but also in her deeper nature.
She was the girl I sat up every night thinking about, and when I'm with her, I feel happy to be alive.
If we look at iconic examples of the girl next door in film and TV, we can spot the qualities that define her. True to her name, she often lives near the male protagonist.
Well, after all, Winnie was my next-door neighbor.
She's always been there. The girl next door has usually been in the boy next door's life for many years as a neighbor or childhood friend.
You and I have been close to each other for a long time, haven't we? Ever since we were kids.
This familiarity can both inspire and hinder romance. The boy and girl feel totally comfortable opening up to each other, but one of them is frequently friend-zoned or overlooked by the other.
I've known you forever, but I feel like I'm seeing you for the first time tonight.
She's accessible. The girl next door is usually from a small town or an unflashy neighborhood. Her personality tends to be down-to-earth, supportive, and approachable.
You're such a good listener.
For both her main boy and her culture at large, the girl next door embodies an idealized, wholesome femininity.
It's every mother's dream to have her son marry the girl next door.
She's often juxtaposed with a more overtly sexy, glamorous woman.
I don't know, I guess I'm just jealous because she's so sexy and I'm not. I'm just that good old girl next door.
Yet, the girl next door's story implies that her innate modesty is part of what makes her special. To paraphrase One Direction, she doesn't know how beautiful she really is.
I got news for you. Guys think you're sexy.
Perhaps more explicitly than any other character type, the girl next door is seen in relation to a boy. The very phrase labels her based on nearness to him. And this can make her into someone who doesn't get to define herself for herself.
The great thing about MJ is when you look in her eyes, you know what kind of man you want to be.
Here's our take on the girl next door, what she represents, what she says about her era, and why it's time for her to bust out of the house next door and take control of her own story. If you're new here, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell to be notified about all of our new videos. This video is brought to you by Honey, a free online shopping tool that will save you a ton of money. All you have to do is install the extension to your browser and shop as you normally would. When you check out, this little box drops down and you can click Apply Coupons. Then, Honey does all the work in combing the internet for promo codes and applying the savings to your cart. You can just sit back and watch the prices drop. Just recently, Honey actually saved one of our team members money on a brand new smart TV, and it only took one click. So if you're looking for a smarter, more cost-effective way to shop online, get Honey for free at joinhoney.com/thetake.
I look for the girl next door. Someone with a good heart, good personality, and looks to match.
The girl next door represents her time period's feminine ideal. So in her evolution over the years, we can see what qualities a changing world prizes most in women. The 1940s girl next door in cinema was defined by her deep humility and self-sacrifice, which she didn't even view as sacrifice.
Day after day, she worked away, remaking the old Granville house into a home.
She was the picture of unconditional acceptance.
So your family's crazy, so you're crazy. That's the way I want you, that's the way I love you.
Judy Garland's Esther in 1944's Meet Me in St. Louis is defined by her devotion to her beloved boy next door.
How can I ignore the boy next door?
Her family, and her hometown. She and her sisters are devastated at the prospect of moving from Missouri to New York City, highlighting the girl next door's strong connection to her roots.
It's our last dance in St. Louis. I feel like I'm gonna cry.
In 1946's It's a Wonderful Life, Donna Reed's small-town girl next door Mary is also defined by enduring love for her hometown, Bedford Falls.
I guess I was homesick.
Homesick? For Bedford Falls?
While Jimmy Stewart's George dreams of big adventures and traveling the world, Mary's ultimate goal is simply to settle down and start a family right where she grew up. And ultimately, the movie is about George realizing Mary's outlook was right.
Nice girl, Mary. kind that'll help you find the answers, George.
That your community, your family, and your sense of decency are what truly make a person rich.
To my big brother George, the richest man in town.
The same year, Wilma in The Best Years of Our Lives also embodied the virtue of wanting nothing more than a modest existence with the man you love. Wilma stands by her beau even though her family doesn't think he's good enough, and marrying him means a much harder life. A challenge she accepts happily.
I love you, and I'm never going to leave you. Never.
The 50s idea of the girl next door was most iconically embodied by Doris Day, who was the picture of all-American wholesomeness.
Every morning, every evening, ain't we got fun?
Despite her huge popularity in the early 60s, Day's box office power faded later in the decade, as her innocently pure image began to feel out of step with cultural attitudes increasingly shaped by the sexual revolution.
Hey, I'm Doris Day. I was not brought up that way.
One of the 1960s most influential girls next door, Gilligan's Island's Marianne Summers also revealed the decade's feeling torn between more traditional and edgy feminine ideals. The Kansas farm girl, played by Dawn Wells, was an innocent ingenue based on Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz. Audiences, both at the time and since, have fixated on comparing Marianne with the other attractive woman on the island, the sexy starlet Ginger.
I used to be a Girl Scout, and they teach you a lot.
I used to go with the Boy Scout, and they teach you a lot, too.
And significantly, this enduring Ginger or Marianne question has tended to be answered strongly in favor of Marianne, signaling that viewers, still in the 60s and long afterward, have continued to be drawn to the domestically minded, down-home kind of girl.
Ginger or Marianne?
Ginger was a bimbo.
Marianne.
1978's The Deer Hunter radically re-evaluated the girl next door's role in a darkening world. Over the course of the movie, Linda is involved with two different men in her small working-class Pennsylvania town, but the first disappears in Vietnam.
He's AWOL, that's all we know.
And the second returns home emotionally scarred by the horrors he experienced there.
What about your wounds?
There's nothing, just the usual complications, that's all.
Thus, this film examines the girl next door's lost innocence and the impossibility of serving as an always cheerful, supportive domestic goddess in the midst of national upheaval.
I'll make you a nice sit-down dinner.
No, I can't.
In the 80s, teen movie icon Molly Ringwald's girl next door appeal in movies like Pretty in Pink and 16 Candles was expressed as a stylish, geeky, cool individuality.
We just got these glasses in.
Ringwald's characters retained the figure's relatability, sweetness, and decency, in contrast to the sometimes cartoonishly unrelatable antagonists in these films.
Where'd you get your clothes? 5 and Dime store?
But the sense that Ringwald's roles and overall persona were refreshingly unusual reflected a new emphasis on the girl next door having a strong sense of self and the courage to be different. 80s and 90s TV examples like Winnie on The Wonder Years, DJ on Full House, Topanga on Boy Meets World, and Laura on Family Matters embodied another new defining quality of the girl next door, being extremely book smart.
That B+ will be hanging over my head for the rest of my life.
This development reveals how greater value was being placed on female intelligence. Yet, even as these characters were framed as studious or competitive overachievers,
I have 699 A's. I need one more. Give me the A, Feeny.
They still weren't allowed to stray too far from the beaten path when it came to living a truly unconventional life.
Mr. Feeny said I should go to Yale unless I have a really good reason not to.
Well, there isn't any good reason.
Actually, there is. Will you marry me?
The ultimate 90s girl next door on TV was Joey from Dawson's Creek.
You had this amazing girl next door quality.
Whose shy, unpolished mannerisms captured her era's idea of what it was to be authentic, unpretentious, and down-to-earth.
If I don't sleep, I get angry, I get irritable, and I no longer maintain my sunny dispositions.
Joey also shows a noticeable independent streak reflecting her times.
I don't even know who I am. I need to find my something.
So we'll find it.
It can't include you, Dawson. It has to be my doing and mine alone.
The 90s and early 2000s increasingly gave us portraits of the girl next door who wanted more for herself.
I always figured we'd go to college together.
Yeah, but Eric, you know that's not what I want.
And who knows, I might want to go to school back east or maybe in Paris.
Or who got to stop being her story's love interest and step into the spotlight. Another version of My So-Called Life could easily have cast Angela as the girl next door to her lovelorn neighbor Brian. But the show grounds us in her perspective, exploring her interest in departing from her small, safe life to join an alternative crowd, date the popular bad boy, and be a rebellious teen.
So when Rand Graff told me my hair was holding me back, I had to listen. Because she wasn't just talking about my hair, she was talking about my life.
Freaks and Geeks likewise followed bookish, square Lindsay, feeling the need to go outside her comfort zone by running with the slackers in her school.
You mean like a party?
Lindsay's too lame to let anyone enter her precious little house.
Sure. Why not? I like parties.
Rory on Gilmore Girls also looks like the classic girl next door.
They kept calling me Mary. I can't believe they still say that.
Why? What does it mean?
Mary, like Virgin Mary. It means they think you look like a goody-goody.
But this high school valedictorian prizes her ambition above any domestic dream.
I want to go to Harvard and study journalism and political science.
On your way to being...
Christiane Amanpour.
When Rory's boyfriend Dean extols the virtues of It's a Wonderful Life and the Donna Reed show's star, Donna Reed, Rory expresses disdain for old-fashioned gender roles.
It's the having to have the dinner on the table as soon as the husband gets home and having to look perfect to do housework and the whole concept that her one point in life is to serve somebody else.
On Friends, Monica functions as a kind of adult girl next door for Chandler. She lives in the apartment next door, is one of his best friends, and for a long time, neither looks at the other in a romantic light. She even has the girl next door's fondness for keeping a spotless home, down-to-earth attitude, and desires to get married and raise a family.
I want a baby.
But reflecting her time period, she was an equal partner in the story, and her characterization complemented the trope's typical qualities with others like independence, career ambition, plenty of neuroses, and lots of experience of the real world that keeps her from being too innocent or pure.
Well, it wasn't that many guys. I mean, if you consider how many guys there actually are, it's a very small percentage.
Contemporary girls next door have continued to reject the old confines of this character type.
College, job, husband, the allure of a life rightly lived. That's not me.
While the Betty of Archie comics was forever pining for and plotting to win her boy next door Archie, Riverdale's update to this character moves on from her infatuation in the first couple of episodes, and her journey is about trying to understand the darkness going on inside herself.
There's this darkness in me that's overwhelming sometimes, and I don't know where it comes from.
So in her modern iterations, the girl next door frequently waves goodbye to her trademark supportive role, claiming the right to put herself first and chart the course of her own life.
So, what's the plan?
I have absolutely no idea. But I'm excited to find out.
Seen through the eyes of her story's central boy, the girl next door can become a symbol for womanhood in general.
The girl next door, Mary Jane Watson. The woman I've loved since before I even liked girls.
Yet frequently in these stories, she represents only half of womankind.
Maybe you're too glamorous. Take me. I'm more like the girl who lives next door.
From the beginning, this character has been set up in opposition to another type of woman. Just look at 1948's A Date with Judy, where innocent girl next door Judy is contrasted with Elizabeth Taylor's bombshell beauty, Carol.
It's a very cute little swing number, Judy, but frankly, I think it's a bit juvenile for a senior high school dance. Try singing the number slower, Judy, more seductively.
More broadly, the 1940s girl next door was the polar opposite of the sexual, scheming femme fatale that rose to prominence in the same era. The 60s gave us the Ginger or Marianne debate, as well as the Graduate story of protagonist Benjamin choosing between his seductive older neighbor, Mrs. Robinson, and her sweet daughter, Elaine.
I'm not good enough for her to associate with, am I? I'm not good enough to even talk about her, am I?
Nancy, the iconic final girl and literal girl next door of 1984's A Nightmare on Elm Street, is set up as a wholesome alternative to her friend Tina.
Glenn, not now.
Who is sexually active and is eventually murdered by Freddy Krueger, following the slasher genre's infamous tendency to punish teens who have sex. The pilot episode of both Dawson's Creek and Riverdale show girls next door Joey and Betty each being eclipsed by a sexy newcomer from New York City.
What is your problem?
My problem is that from the moment Little Miss Highlight showed up, you haven't said one word to me.
Crap!
All these examples reveal that the girl next door trope fits into the deeply ingrained idea that there are two fundamental categories of women: the seductress men lust after, and the good girl they view as friend or wife material.
You're basically alone on a deserted island with two readily available women. One, a seductive sex goddess type. The other, a healthy girl next door type with a nice butt.
Frequently, these showdowns between the sexy girl and the sweet one end up working out with the girl next door on top.
You're the first thing for so long that I like.
Joey ends up having her choice between Dawson and Pacey, plus another guy, while her once rival, the cool and sexy Jen, dies of pulmonary congestion. Ultimately, this dichotomy is an expression of our culture's unfortunate Madonna whore complex, in which all women are seen as either pure virtuous Madonnas or sinful sexual beings.
Madonna whore. You think? Absolutely. Trey sees you as his virginal wife, not his sexual plaything.
But obviously, real women don't divide into these two categories. In The Graduate, the final moment when Ben and Elaine look uncertain about their future subtly hints that they're very likely to fall into the traps of their parents' dissatisfying suburban life, which means that the sweet girl next door Elaine will develop into the seductive, frustrated older woman. Meanwhile, the boy protagonist's idealized youthful impression of the girl next door can forever put her on a reductive purity pedestal.
You were about 6 years old when MJ's family moved in next door. And when you saw her for the first time, you grabbed me and said, "Is that an angel?"
In Forrest Gump, even as Forrest's childhood friend Jenny struggles down a dark, troubled path, Forrest can only ever see her as the angel she first appeared like to him.
She was like an angel.
And eventually, before her untimely death, his faith manages to briefly turn her into that classic girl next door-esque wife and mother. The girl next door often feels like a safe place, a port in a storm for the male character when his outside world becomes too overwhelming.
And you and I feel safe with each other. We always have.
But the boy next door's view of this girl as so perfectly good,
you are so perfect,
can make him incapable of seeing who she really is in all her complexity and nuance.
You're like the sweet, innocent girl, and he's a complete dick. I don't get it.
You know you make me sound really boring, right, Josh? I'm not that innocent.
Okay.
Narratives both old and new also can send the troubling message that a girl should be willing to wait however long it takes until her faithful devotion is rewarded, even if her beloved is currently ignoring or mistreating her.
Where is a little understanding?
Oh, I understand everything. I'm tired of understanding. All I do is understand.
When we think of the girl next door, the first thing to come to mind is probably her sweet nature or our own memories of childhood. But casting this character in such a flattering sepia light can also obscure the more complicated aspects of who she is. Take The Wonder Years, which ran from 1988 to 1993. The show is framed by the now-adult protagonist Kevin reflecting on his youth, including his girl next door and first love, Winnie.
Once upon a time, there was a girl I knew who lived across the street. Every single thing that ever happened to me that mattered in some way had to do with her.
Setting this story in the 60s speaks to the inherent nostalgia of the girl next door trope. Winnie embodies Kevin's longing for a golden, wondrous past that's long gone.
Winnie and I made an unspoken pact that day to stay kids for a little while longer.
But actually, there's a lot more to Winnie than this. In the pilot episode, her brother is killed in action in Vietnam, and over the course of the series, she also endures her parents' separation as a result of losing their son, and is injured in a serious car accident. And many other girls next door are also dealing with some kind of tragedy or secret darkness that isn't necessarily visible to the world, but eats away at them from the inside.
Get in here, little girl, and do the dishes now!
Were you listening to that?
In recent years, on-screen stories have started to examine the dangers for characters who unquestioningly buy into this traditional, unimaginative formula. The Office's all-grown-up girl next desk, Pam, starts the show engaged to her high school sweetheart and, despite her talent for art, dreaming of nothing more than getting married and settling down.
I bought my veil.
But her inertia and tendency to play it safe, which might have been seen as virtues in another era, are painted as Pam's fatal flaws.
It's just hard to accept that I spent so many years being less happy than I could have been.
Still, like a traditional girl next door, Pam finds ultimate meaning in her life by raising a family with the man she truly loves.
I love my boring life.
Come on.
Exactly the way it is.
No.
On Riverdale, Betty is a darker case study in the internal damage that can result from trying to fit the messy complexities of who you are into a one-dimensional, oversimplified, and boring category.
You're the perfect girl next door.
I hate that word.
Her belief that she's meant to be with Archie isn't how she feels deep down, but just part of this narrative she thinks she should live up to.
I think a part of me has been in love with Archie for 10 years.
False. You've been in love with that idea of Archie.
And others' perception of her as an angelic, rule-following good girl forces her to go to elaborate lengths to liberate her more illicit primal emotions.
Why in God's name do you have this cabaret wig?
She wears it when she has sex with Jughead.
Another interesting subversion of this character type is the mysterious girl next door, who is anything but accessible or old-fashioned.
Her life had become a series of unbelievably epic adventures, each one too insane to be true.
Instead, this character sparks the boy's interest because she's so close yet eludes his understanding.
We find ourselves in the corner going over the evidence one more time, all to understand those 5 girls who, after all these years, we can't get out of our minds.
This person is still seen through a specific, limited male gaze.
I wound up living across the street from Margot Roth Spiegelman. From the moment I saw her, I was hopelessly, madly in love.
But the point of the story is often how much this egocentric observer has failed to really see her or understand the girl.
You don't even know me.
The 2020 Hulu series Normal People gives us a girl next door character who's far from the figure's polite and old-fashioned image.
Are you sure we can take our clothes off?
I don't know, yeah.
You were tempted. I tempted you.
The show highlights how powerful a bond can be between young people who've known and understood each other since both their identities were still forming. But it also emphasizes that Mary Ann's and Connell's simultaneous coming of age together is a messy process. Immature young people still figuring out who they are as individuals can make reckless mistakes or hurt each other along the way.
You're pissed off at me.
I don't really care.
2019 Netflix rom-com Always Be My Maybe's contemporary twist on the girl and a boy next door love story focuses on old childhood friends reconnecting as adults who live in very different worlds. Yet, like for the couple in Normal People, Sasha's and Marcus's shared history is a key part of what brings them back together.
It's just like my mom's.
It's all her recipes. This is what I want to do, Marcus. The kind of food that makes people feel at home. The way your mom always made me feel.
What these couples have experienced of each other's early family lives and the way they've watched each other grow up make them feel they know each other better than anyone else could.
Thanks for reminding me how it feels.
How what feels?
Home.
All these updates to the girl next door story illustrate that trying to fit your life into a limited, culturally prescribed pop culture mold can hold you back from unearthing your full potential. For all the girls next door we see on screen, it's safe to say that few women would describe themselves using this language. To herself, she's not the girl next door. She's just the girl. And the specific adjectives, quirks, and dreams attached to that identity should be left up to her.
People have always looked at me and seen what they wanted to see.
Hi everyone, I'm Susanna.
I'm Deborah, and we're the creators of The Take.
Please subscribe and tell us what you want our take on next.
This video is brought to you by Honey, a free browser extension that scours the web for coupons and applies the best deal to your online shopping cart, so you never have to search for or memorize promo codes again. We actually use Honey ourselves and it's saved us hundreds of dollars already. So get Honey for free at joinhoney.com/thetake.